So the From Season 4 teaser has dropped. Fans have been waiting a little over a year for this, and we're going to examine it and what it could mean going forward for the upcoming season. We're also going to look at the answers that we got from Season 3, the mysteries that are still in the air. But first, let's talk about what From actually is about. From is about monsters that come out at night, magical talismans that keep those monsters from entering an enclosed structure, mysterious trees and roots, time travel, teleportation, reincarnation, seemingly random individuals who end up in a town that seems impossible to escape from, a man who's been trapped there for 40 years, cycles and fears, visions and voices that only some can hear. Overall, what's going on this show isn't really clear, but we'll get there. But on the surface, From is about people trapped in a place where survival depends on obeying unexplained rules, trusting strange objects, avoiding curiosity, and accepting that the environment actively responds when you push too hard. But in my opinion, the show has definitely been able to prove that it's even more than that. From is about America or Turtle Island, esoteric messaging, symbolic remnants of true indigenous history, hidden predictive political messages, and elite ritual control over your perceived environment. Look, I'm gonna keep it a beanbag. I love the show From. It's what started this channel. That first episode would hook any horror mystery fanatic that would give the first 10 minutes a chance. And for the first 2 seasons, the characters, the actors, and even the viewers were damn near stuck in this town without any answers to where they are, who's trapping them, and why they were brought here. They didn't know who they could trust, and they didn't know what the hell these slow walkers are. But Season 3 answered some of those questions, introduced a couple new characters, brought back characters who were dead, and killed a couple of the old characters. But the answers we got created even more questions. Welcome to Real Enigmas and Theories. Spoilers if you're not already caught up and ready for Season 4, just so you know. Let's do a quick recap for the first 2 seasons, and then we'll talk about this teaser while discussing the events of Season 3. I'm not going to go over every detail, just enough to pinpoint where we are. So I'm even going to skip over some of the important stuff because it'll come up later in the video. Let's cook. Season 1. The Matthew family drives their RV into a town with a road that loops them right back around to the starting point. They frantically drive down that road and end up crashing into Jade and Toby's Audi on the road. Ethan injures his leg in the crash. By the next day, they've all made it into town and have been told about the situation that they're in. Jade finds out that Toby's dead. A girl named Sarah kills Toby, but then it gets blamed on the monsters, and Jade pretty much didn't find out who killed it. The land is split into 2 factions. Colony House at the highest point of the highest hill ran by Donna, and down in town where the makeshift Sheriff Boyd lives, and he rings the bell for sundown. Julie decides to separate from her family and live at Colony House while her family decides to live in town. Jade also decides to live in town. Now, skipping over a bunch of stuff that you probably already know, Jade starts seeing visions of a symbol always accompanied by blood. He gets a book of symbols from Miss Lou that contain pictures of a man and a young Victor who's been there since childhood, and he was being guided by a ghostly boy in white. Tabitha Matthews starts digging a hole in the basement. The girl Sarah who killed Jade's friend is hearing voices that tell her to do bad things. She makes a failed attempt to kill young Ethan Matthews and ends up being harbored by the local Catholic priest, Father Kotry. So Kotry reveals to Boyd that he has Sarah, who has proven that she can hear voices that could be helpful in figuring things out and helping them get out of that place. Kotry ends up getting killed by a monster, and Boyd secretly takes Sarah out into the woods so that they can find a way out. Meanwhile, Jim Matthews and Jade try to build an antenna for a radio to see if they could reach someone. So Boyd and Sarah head out to the woods and they encounter a bottle tree. Boyd gets a bottle from the tree and Sarah passes out from a seizure. Boyd finds a note with a date in the bottle. The date was written in words, 1864. And this is important because it's not written 1864, it's written 1864. After Boyd shares that information with Sarah, something drags their tent to a really big spider patch where Boyd gets bitten up by spiders. Then a storm starts out of nowhere. Boyd goes into a faraway tree with the note, and he's transported to a bottom of a dark well using only his lighter to see with. Meanwhile, at the radio, Jim hears a voice that warns him about his wife digging a hole in the basement. Jade never finds out about Sarah killing Toby, and Jim gets to the hole in the basement, but it's caved in and he doesn't see his wife. Oh yeah, then a bus pulls into town for the illest cliffhanger, and that was the end of season 1. And I mean, we were all hooked after we saw it. We couldn't wait for season 2. And speaking of season 2, we get a bunch of new characters that came off of that bus, but the main important ones, I believe, would be Tilly, Elgin, Marielle, Randall, Bacta, and a bunch of the other people from the bus with little significance. No main characters die in this season besides Tom the barman. And I guess you could say the monster that died, I call him Smiles Davis. He was pretty much important character. He was one of the most menacing monsters, and he ended up getting killed too, and we'll talk about that. Boyd is still stuck in the well, but someone throws him a rope that he climbs up and finds an old Civil War soldier named Martin who's been kept alive for who knows how long, and he has these worms or nymphs under his skin that he passes on to Boyd. The well that Boyd was in was inside of an ancient well chamber that turns into ruins right after Boyd leaves with a torch from inside. And to me right there, that was obviously some sort of time travel because this building is intact. And when he leaves the threshold with the torch, it automatically turns into the ruins of the same building. So he had to be in 2 different time periods. Meanwhile, in town, the bus passengers get off the bus and a few offer to help get Tabitha, who's stuck in the hole in the basement, but she was actually under the town in a tunnel system with the guy Victor. So she and Victor do make it out of the tunnel, but the house ends up collapsing on Jim and a couple of the others while they were trying to free her from the hole that she wasn't even in. One of the bus passengers named Marielle is a nurse and is helping Elgin, who had a seizure on the bus. Seizures are a big thing on this show. Christy, who's the doctor that was already stuck in this place, is down at the bus helping the people, and she spots Marielle. They knew each other before this place. Turns out they were a couple on the outside. So right there, this person on the bus actually knew somebody that was there. That is where everything got real crazy if you were watching it for the first time. Randall went down into the basement with a few others to help Jim, and he was the only one who managed to escape from the collapsing house. The woman Bacta was the bus driver. So let's fast forward. Boyd has those worms under his skin, or the nymphs, or whatever you want to call them, and he's experiencing visions of a haunting ballerina, and he ends up in the town's hospital. The same evening he goes to the hospital, his son Ellis gets stabbed up at Colony House and has to come down to the hospital with his girlfriend Fatima, where Elgin heroically gets them there to save Ellis's life, but he lost so much blood that he needs a blood transfusion, and Boyd is the only one that can give him the blood to save his life. But he has those worms under his skin. So he gets a bright idea to transfer the worms into one of the monsters, and I call him Smiles Davis. The plan sounds random and crazy, but it actually works. And Boyd gives the worms to the monster, kills Smiles Davis, goes back inside to participate in the blood transfusion, and saves his son's life. Meanwhile, while Ellis is getting patched up, Fatima asks Christy, the doctor, for a pregnancy test and finds out that she's pregnant. So since the beginning, or since the end of season 1, the beginning of season 2, Fatima was already pregnant. So Fatima was preggo before Smiles Davis is killed, and that's very important for later. Long story shorter, the body of the monster is taken to the basement to examine, and a herd of cicadas end up flying out of the body and begin to terrorize the town, keeping everyone from going to sleep. Jade is growing his hair and beard out, going crazy trying to figure out what all these symbols mean. And Tabitha is seeing these gooey looking children, or these mangy kids that need to be saved from the tower, and the cicadas enter the body of Julie Matthews, Randall, and Marielle, and it takes their minds to a coma state and torture and fear. We don't know exactly what they were seeing, but they ended up in the same place, in the same well chamber where Boyd meets Martin. Their minds are there, but their bodies are wherever they were at the time of the cicadas entering their body. So the season ends with Ellis and Fatima getting married. Boyd gets shot on his way to solve the riddle and free the three, and Tabitha heads out to the tower to find the children. Jade finds out what the symbol really is. It's pretty much tree roots looking from the ground perspective under it. And when I say he understands what this symbol means, he literally understands it because he's standing under it. Boyd frees the three, and Tabitha gets to the tower, meets the boy in white who pushes her out of the window, and she ends up in a hospital. And season 2 ended with a bang. It wasn't as explosive as season 1 because there were no real stakes in that season, but it definitely gave us some things to think about and added to the mystery. So now let's get into this teaser. Here we are in 2026, the year of the horse, and it's the return of From. So they dropped this trailer on February 4th, which is 74 days before the release of season 4. And the 74 is very important because we were seeing 4s and 7s and 74s all through season 1 and season 2. And if you know my work on this show, you know that I have revealed the meta connections with all the 4s and 7s and 74s in the show, and how it's connected to Trump's assassination attempt in 2024, him being the 47th president, Thomas Matthews being the name of Jim and Tabitha's son, and the name of the Trump shooter. We won't get into too much of that here today, but I thought it was interesting that they brought back something in reference to the 74 since they totally abandoned that in season 3. So the trailer starts off with Boyd using the binoculars, which makes me think of the very first episode where he was watching Ellis playing volleyball in front of the Colony House. Now his vantage point is Colony House, and it makes me wonder what or who he's looking at. Maybe Ellis again, maybe a mirror of that scene, I don't know. But I'm sure he's checking out something in town because, from the porch, it looks directly at the town. And it could be the same thing that Sarah and some of these townspeople are looking at. Maybe someone crashed in the pool. Maybe Dale is down there breakdancing. And it could be the arrival of our new character, Sophia, but I don't know. Now, I've been following what's been going on with From during the off season, even rewatching the entire show. And when the announcement of a character named Sophia came out, it added another mystery for me. First of all, why are they telling us the name of the character? They didn't tell us Acosta's name. They just told us that we were getting a new actress on the show. They didn't tell us Henry's name. They were just telling us they never have disclosed the name of a character before the show came out, especially so early. That let me know right away that they're going to be coming with some heavy symbolism. And there's also a mysterious colonial woman character. And I believe we saw a painting of a colonial woman in Henry's basement, allegedly painted by Victor's mother. And we'll talk about the allegedly later. I think that she's probably going to have some connection to the vision Jade saw of the guy drinking from the skull. And we'll talk about that too. But this character, Sophia, actually connects to something that I've been talking about on this channel for a while. The Divine Feminine, the Vesica Pisces, and the Baphomet. This is what led me to the egg symbolism. I was the only channel talking about the egg symbolism all throughout season 2 and season 3. And in season 3, Fatima ended up laying an egg.
Here he goes with this egg stuff. Fatima didn't lay an egg.
Here's Angela Moore, who plays Bakhta, speaking to Pegah Ghaffori, who plays Fatima, in a live stream, and they're talking about the egg.
Like everything she went through in her belly and how it went concave, and then like the egg, oh, girl, like the egg, oh, girl. The raw food was feeling every little bone cracking moment there.
So let's dig into this, starting with the character's name, Sophia. Let's put a pin in that right there. Now, Sophia is the divine mother of wisdom, according to the translation of the wisdom in Proverbs. Now, since the character is seen praying with the only Bible we've ever seen on this show, it's about to get a bit biblical in this section. Check this out. Now, I talked about Jim being the widow's son and everything, and how that connects to Solomon. And Solomon traditionally is credited as the author of Proverbs. And he says that wisdom existed before the world was made, and that wisdom was present when God set forth the foundations of earth. Now, in later Greek translation, the Hebrew word chokmah was wisdom, and it translated directly as Sophia. So while the English Bible says wisdom, the Greek text literally says Sophia. So when Solomon said wisdom, he was speaking about a female. Wisdom existed before the world was made, and wisdom was present when God set forth the foundations of earth. Pretty much means Sophia was present when the world was made. You see what I'm saying? Now, From has been using this line of symbolism since season 1, and I've been talking about it. And for them to announce a new character named Sophia lets me know that they are continuing this path of messaging. Now, in seasons 2 and 3, I revealed the egg symbolism that aligns with the divine feminine archetype, and then Fatima actually laid an egg in the finale. The Vesica Pisces led me to the word ovum, which literally translates to egg. And Sophia is also connected to that principle of the Vesica Pisces, the ovum. Solomon speaks about wisdom as a feminine presence who existed before creation, stood beside God as the world was formed. And the Vesica Pisces represents that exact idea visually, with the ovum shape created by the Vesica Pisces translating to egg. The Vesica Pisces is something that tracks all the way back to Boyd's name, which is Mr. Fish and Loaves. It also connects to the Matthews, and in particular, Julie Matthews and her mother, Tabitha Matthews. In the book of Matthew is where the fish and loaves story actually takes place, with Jesus and the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread. This is where we get the Pisces from, 2 fish. Now, in previous videos, I revealed that Jim's connections to the cross-leg effigies in the Templar Knights, the widow's son, and Hiram Abiff. And Jim being the widow's son, the architect of the radio tower, and he ended up dying in the finale, which was an actual completion of the circle from him gesturing the funeral for the widow's son. I talked about that in a couple of videos. I didn't realize it, but low key, I was predicting Jim dying in that video, and you can check that out right here. And this is yet another connection to Solomon and Sophia, because Hiram was the architect of Solomon's temple. And after Jim's death, we're getting a new character named Sophia. That's crazy. Now, this character is described as a sheltered and vulnerable pastor's daughter. And there's been no Bibles in this show at all. And all of a sudden, we're seeing her in the trailer with an actual Bible. And all of this is actually Jewish mysticism. And that takes us right into the Baphomet. Now, I've explained this in a few videos in the past, but the fact that I've specifically referenced this to the name Sophia is definitely worth mentioning. And I'm not gonna lie, when I did videos about Sophia in the past, I kind of knew that we were gonna get a character named Sophia, but it was such a stretch for me to say. I didn't really want to say it, but man, I wish I would have. But at least I did talk about Sophia, and you can go check my older videos, even my very first Severance video where I broke down Sophia and the Baphomet, which I'm about to do for you here. So the name Sophia translates to wisdom. Keep that in mind. Now, the Baphomet is an inverted word, and the actual meaning of Baphomet has been inverted as well. Let me show you. The name Baphomet first appears during the procession of the Knights Templar in the early 1300s. And over time, it was demonized and recycled by many occultists all the way to today, where we see the same thing going on in Hollywood. Baphomet is the inverted version of the word Tem of Ab, or Temple Hominum Hominem Passus Habas, which in Latin translates to the God of the Temple of Peace for all men, also known as King Solomon's Temple. Now in Greek, it's broken into two parts, Baphe and Metis. Baphe meaning to baptize or anoint or dip, bathe, Baphe, and Metis meaning metrics or math or arithmetic, Baphometis or Baphomet. Now, when that comes together as Baphometis, it literally means bathe in the wisdom of mathematics. So remember, Sophia means wisdom. Let's go. Now, here's where Sophia comes front and center. When you take Baphomet in Hebrew, you get Bet Pevav Mem Tav, right? Now, there's a little something called the Atbash cipher, and it takes the first letter of the Hebrew language and it changes it with the last letter and so forth. Now, when you run Bet Pevav Mem Tav through the Atbash cipher, you get Shin Vav Pe Yud Aleph, which means Sophia, who is the wisdom of the Divine Mother. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that I know what this character is going to bring to the table, but the fact that her name is the first bit of information that we got about season 4 months ago probably means something heavy. And we didn't get a heap of information from this teaser, but I'm sure that a full trailer is going to fix that. Last season, From dropped their teaser more than 5 months before the premiere, and then a full trailer came shortly after that at Comic-Con. But this time, they gave us a very short window, and I'm thinking that they did that so that they could drop it 74 days before the premiere. Because I mean, at the end of season 3, I definitely called them out for abandoning the 7s and 4s and the 47s. Like, what was that about? So now we see that they're jumping back on board with the 74 days before the premiere. Now we go through the teaser and it's pretty much all of the main characters looking at something, with the exception of Victor crying on the tree and Henry sitting there with him. I think that will be really important this season. Showing Victor crying on the tree and everyone else focusing their attention somewhere else is a clue, and we'll talk about that later. Now, there's one character that we can positively say that we know what they're looking at, and that's Christy. She's looking at Elgin as he says, if we push too hard, something will push back. Now, I gotta touch on this real quick. Christy already didn't like Sarah, and she had smoke for Sarah. She definitely wanted to get at Sarah, and she was very vocal about Boyd trusting her and was ready to head in town and put the beats on Sarah when she heard that she was out there. And for me, judging by the way she's looking at Elgin's damage and finding out that Sarah did that to him, I don't think she's going to be okay with what happened to Elgin at Colony House. I just don't. And I said this when season 3 ended. I think there will definitely be a divide amongst our trapped travelers. You had Randall, who was left by Boyd, so I'm sure there's still some smoke right there. You got Boyd and Ellis harbored Tilly's murderer. You got Jade that still doesn't know who killed Toby. And when he finds out that, and then they tortured Elgin without actually knowing what he did. We know that Elgin dragged Fatima by her Ugg boots and locked her up in the cellar, but they didn't know that when they tortured him. If anybody should have been snapping, it should have been Ellis, but it was Boyd and Sarah, which is already a bad look. So we have the man in yellow indicating that he knows what happens next, and that rings that he's experienced all of this before. And I've talked about this in videos that I don't believe that this is the first time all of this has happened, I believe that this has happened multiple times. And you can look at my videos. I've been talking about this for a while. And that actually makes me wonder how much of the man in yellow we're going to see this season. I'm calling him Yeller McNasty. I mean, bro is rocking the dirty, clean yellow suit with the cat litter teeth looking crazy as hell. Walking around and shit in the daytime like one of those insurance salesmen from the 80s. I do hope we get to learn what his role is in the grand scheme of things. I don't think he's the main big bad, but we'll see. One thing I can tell is that the symbolism is going to be at an all-time high just by this teaser. Last season on this channel, I revealed that the teaser was lying about the voice in the barn, and I showed that they actually reused a character's voice who was stuck to the tree, but they were careful with this teaser this time. They didn't try to fake us out with no dumb shit, and they just held back a lot. They were real, they've been real quiet, and this teaser to me was kind of quiet. I know they didn't try to fake us out with no voices again, knowing that I'm right here as an audio engineer. I would have caught it again, believe that. I can say that last season's teaser, even though they was lying, it was better than this one for sure. It let us know flat out that we were getting a death and that Boyd was there to bear witness to it. That was crazy. That's a lot of information for a teaser. And then the full trailer came out that expanded on that even more. But this teaser right here was very safe. The thing that I do like about this teaser, it tells us who is still on board. I mean, I thought Elgin was a goner, but obviously he's still here. And we'll get some one-eye symbolism with him. I mean, there were a lot of problems with the way season 3 ended for me. And the main problem is this made-up ass word, and cooey, which is supposed to mean remember. I thought that was poor writing myself. What are they going to do? Make up a whole language that these people are going to be speaking? I don't know what is going on with a made up word. Yo, that's crazy. And why would the children be screaming remember while they're being killed? And in what language? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And the way that Fatima claims to have seen what the monsters are was poor writing to me. Also, the fact that Fatima was pregnant before Smiles Davis was killed and burned. And for me, that totally contradicts her having him inside of her. It just doesn't make any sense. I hope they clear that up. I really hope they use the everything lies here somehow. And some of what we thought were answers was just this place messing with our key players. I hope that's what they do. I mean, here's the thing. The major clue that we actually had time travel being a thing was Boyd at the well house intact with Martin, and when he leaves with the torch, it ends up turning into the ruin. Then you have the rope being a paradox, and all of that is taking place at the well house, and Julie was also, her mind was trapped in the well house with the cicadas. So you have that rope being the paradox, and if Julie doesn't throw the rope, Boyd doesn't climb up and meet Martin. He doesn't get the cicadas. And if he doesn't get the cicadas, he doesn't kill the monster. And if he doesn't kill the monsters, the cicadas don't get released. And if the cicadas are never released, Julie doesn't get them and we don't get her story walking abilities. So that was like a bootstrap paradox with the rope. And I think it sets the time travel paradox in stone. I've also said in previous videos that Julie's story walking is probably why the teen boy monster asked her if she remembered him on the porch of Colony House in season 1. And in my opinion, this is the strongest plot thread. It shows that Julie, Randall, and Mari's experience could have given all three of them some sort of abilities that can actually be very interesting and useful. We know for sure that Julie has something. At one point during the first 2 seasons, Victor was the most interesting character on the show. He's been in town the longest from what we know, and it felt like we were going to get some solid answers from him, but season 3 killed that unless Henry is lying. So let me explain that, because that's what I really wanted to get to. Now, when we first met Victor for those first 2 times, it was in 2 scenes with Julie. While she was being kept in the kitchen, Victor offered her some of his peaches, told her about the 2 cars coming into town being special, which he was in the car, one of the cars, the last time it happened. He also drew that picture of her while she slept. And that was crazy to me because then he tells Ethan not to draw pictures of people who are alive. I don't know why he did that. That has been making me scratch my head since season 2. After that, his character changed into a more withdrawn personality. He was secretive, but he was kind of focused on sharing bits of information with Ethan. And he did this despite of Jim running up on him at the diner and tossing him out the door like Uncle Phil. He even pulled a pistol on Jim. And then the next thing you know, we get a total change in his behavior when he went into action to save Julie from the Colony House massacre. After that, he builds a connection with Tabitha. He tells Tabitha that his mother told him that the children were in the tower. And then in season 3, he's saying that he told his mother that the children were in the tower. After he heard the boy in white tell that to Chris. That makes no sense. Now here's where we get to Henry. The first problem with this story is that Henry told Tabitha that Miranda already knew the children were in the tower before they even got to Frumlin. He said that they used to be hippies, but they stopped doing drugs after Victor was born. And on Henry's 35th birthday, Miranda wants to get that old thing back and get high one more time. So she gets some acid and takes the kids to her mother's house. This means that this happened after Eloise was born. So they go to a tree and get high, and then she starts having visions and painting all sorts of things that we seen in Frumlin and some stuff that we haven't seen yet. She starts doing community art projects, and you have to ask yourself, how long does something like that take? Victor doesn't seem much older than Eloise. So if he was 10 when they got there, surely he had to see his mother's paintings and artwork, the bottle tree in his backyard. I mean, that could only mean that Henry is lying. And the place could be lying to Victor as well. I don't know, maybe Victor just doesn't remember his childhood when he was at home, and he doesn't remember the bottle trees. He doesn't remember his mother being an artist painting all of this stuff that they see in the place there. You know what I mean? But that doesn't take away from the fact that Victor thinks that he told his mom about the children's location when she surely already knew about that location. Because that was the very thing that stopped Henry from turning Tabitha into the cops. When she mentioned the children in the tower, that's what made Henry not turn her into the cops. None of that makes sense either, because if she's got your son's lunchbox, she's talking about this place and everything. She was talking about all of this stuff before you called the cops on her. And you see what I'm saying? And why would you call the cops on her anyway? She didn't do anything wrong. What, were you going to turn her in for having your son's lunchbox? You would have had to explain that, because he went missing when this lady was real little. So, you know, Tabitha was surely a kid, or probably not even born yet when Victor went missing. Another thing is, those paintings don't look old enough to fit the story. I think this was all a game to get Jade to play the notes and free Mr. Yeller McNasty. Let's say that Victor did hear the boy in white tell Chris about the children. Wouldn't the boy in white have known that Victor was down there? And that information turned out to be a lie anyway. She ended up dying and didn't even make it to see. So Tabitha makes it, and the boy in white is there to push her out of the window. He shows up to her in the real world and leads her into the direction of the pastor that ends up telling her to open up the lunchbox, and that's where she found the address for Victor's house. And when she gets there, she gets the information that casts a significant light on the bottle tree. I mean, Henry told her all about the paintings, and then the next morning, he's like, oh yeah, she made a bottle tree out the back. And she also made one across town. It's like he was planting little seeds. And then that piqued her interest. And you got to understand, she just traveled through a bottle tree. So he takes her to see another one. And on the way, they end up crashing and ending up back in Frumlin, this time with Henry. And now she tells the story about what happened there. The bottle tree becomes the main focus on what she saw and what she was on her way to go see before crashing. So she tells the fiddler, and Jim figures out the answer to the problem, which was 12, is also a dozen, another reference to eggs. Jim is also who designed the radio tower, and was targeted by the guy who thinks Jade sure can play, Mr. Yeller McNasty. I think that there's more to Henry that we can see right now, and I think we'll find out this season. As far as Mr. Yeller McNasty, I don't think he's in league with the slow walkers, because if the music from the bottle notes freed Yeller McNasty, then why would Smiles Davis kill the violinist, Miranda? And it looks like the boy in white kept Victor safe because he needed there to be a connection to the last violinist there to push the plan forward and play the notes. If Victor had died and the Matthews would have come to town, there would have been nobody to make that connection there about the bottle trees or anything else tied to Miranda. So the boy in white had to keep Victor alive to put those parts in motion so that when Tabitha arrives, we can get this thing going. I mean, think about it. Tabitha and Jade ended up arriving at the same time. And as far as we know, Chris and Miranda didn't have anybody to make those connections. The boy in white was allegedly talking directly to Chris, according to Victor. So that makes me think that the boy in white was trying to bring back Mr. Yeller McNasty all along, and Henry was helping. Jade even asked Henry, why is he talking to him when he could be talking to anybody? He could be talking to his son. He was like, why are you following me around? Jade also pointed out that Henry had repeatedly stated that his wife made bottle trees on the outside. And Henry repeating that to everyone kind of looks like he was planting seeds. Now let's get to this business about the horses and From coming back during the year of the horse, the fire horse to be exact. It makes me wonder if we'll see any horses this season. There were horses on Ethan's PJs, Megan's Wonder Riding Pony, Tilly was going to bet on the horses, the carousel horse at Colony House. Boyd spoke about wild horses not stopping him to the wedding. He also had the horse about the ponies in the boat song or whatever. Surely the year of the fire horse will come back around to that symbolism, I'm sure of it. Also, Boyd was the fire bearer at the end of every season. I pointed that out in another video before. But at the end of season 1, he had his lighter inside of the well. At the end of season 2, he was seen with the torch holding the fire. And at the end of season 3, he had the lantern with the candle inside it when he was going down into the hatch. So the horse, the Matthews, the Book of Matthews, the Vesica Pisces, the egg symbolism, and the main thing that we see right here that is very intriguing is the name Sophia. Shin Vav Pe Yud Aleph. Who knows? Since I pointed out that Boyd was the fire bearer at the end of all 3 seasons, they might have pivoted from that. They might not do it in season 4. We didn't get much in season 3 about the guy drinking from the skull. And I spoke last season about the term memento mori, where I also talked about Lord Byron and his drinking skull. And the crazy part to this fact is that season 4 premieres on the day that Lord Byron died in 1824, April 19th. I mean, that is so crazy. I thought that was crazy right away, and it jumped in my mind. I think that the showrunners know that I talked about that and dropped it on his death date on purpose. I mean, y'all could call me crazy. But last season, I made a prediction about the song Stuck in the Middle being played on one of the radios. And I'm not going to tell you all of the reasons why this time, but I think we might hear the song Iko Iko. And if it does play, you know I am definitely going to explode with the esoteric breakdown like you've never heard before. And I'm going to keep it a beanbag. There's a lot to discuss with the return of From just over the horizon, but I will wait until we get a little bit more info about this season. I hope we get a full trailer somewhere around April Fool's Day. So if you like this video, go ahead and do all that dope YouTube stuff by tapping that screen for me a few times. Like, share, and comment. And if you're not subscribed, hopefully this will be the video that makes you do it. Thanks. That's all for this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.